So the thing that set Darwin apart from other naturalists of his time was his description of the process of natural selection as a driving force for causing changes in species, for causing evolution. Natural selection is a process. It is the process that causes evolution or changes to occur. Darwin was not able to study long-term changes in species, but he was able to study the changes that humans make in species. This is called artificial selection. Humans select for traits that they want, and then they use those individuals to grow more organisms with those traits. For example, today tomatoes can be seen the size of a baseball. That's because humans have been breeding tomato plants to produce larger fruit. The ancestors of tomato plants from Peru actually had fruits that were much smaller, about the size of a blueberry. Natural selection can only occur if the right conditions are met. So a population of individuals must have variation. If you look in the picture on the right, you can see two moths. One is white, one is black, and they're living on this dark black tree trunk. They are the same species of moth. Some are light gray, some are dark. That is variation. The populations must produce more offspring than can survive. This means that not every baby that is born lives long enough to have its own babies. This is because there are not enough resources to support every individual. These moths live in trees. There are not enough trees for every moth to have a habitat, so they must compete or struggle to survive. Some traits are more adaptive than other traits. When you look at this picture, which moth is better adapted to living on this tree trunk? It's the darker one. The darker one blends in and is less likely to be eaten or spotted by predators. So this makes the dark moth better adapted to this environment on the dark tree trunk. It's important to note that if a trait is good or not depends on the environment. If these moths lived on light-colored trees, then the dark one would be not as well adapted as the light one. One trait is not better than the other strictly. It depends on the environment that they live in. The last requirement for natural selection is that the organisms that are better adapted will produce more offspring. So this means that the black moth, who blends in, can have more babies, and the light moth, who gets eaten, will not. So natural selection does not create new variations. It can only work with the variations that already exist in a population. Natural selection selects for the organisms that are well adapted to live in their current habitats. This means that natural selection can change populations so that they match the environment they live in. This can be observed in experiments today. So an example in the picture shows a field of crops that are infested with insects. These insects vary. Some of them are resistant to pesticides, so those are the ones with the red band, and some of them are not resistant. Those are the ones with the green bands. So when pesticides are sprayed, it changes the environment, and the ones that are resistant live, and the ones that are not resistant die. So the only survivors are these two with the red bands, and the other ones with the green chromosomes, those died. The ones that live will go on to make more insects, who will also be resistant to pesticides. So what will happen if this farmer continues to spray his pesticide? Is the pesticide really going to continue to kill the pests? Probably not, because the pests are now all resistant. So if this farmer continues to spray the same pesticide, he's not actually going to kill any of these insects. Eventually, only the pests that will be left will be the resistant ones. And now the farmer is going to need a stronger or different pesticide in order to kill those pests. A similar phenomenon is happening today with bacteria. When you take antibiotics, it kills the weak bacteria, but any resistant ones may live. Resistant bacteria can actually share DNA, and sometimes the bad bacteria that was causing the infection can actually become resistant. So you're typically prescribed about 10 days of antibiotics. And you need all 10 days so that your body can finish off all of the bad bacteria without risking any of them becoming resistant. Usually, though, you feel better after about 2 days of antibiotics. You should still finish them. If you stop taking the antibiotics early, then some of the resistant bacteria may start to produce, and you could get another infection, only this time of resistant bacteria. This would mean that you now need a different, stronger antibiotic to kill all of them, or you can cause some serious health effects. We actually can't produce new antibiotics fast enough to keep up with the rapid adaptation of bacteria that are becoming resistant. Please take a few minutes and watch the YouTube video link in the PowerPoint to see how quickly bacteria can adapt to antibiotics.